Hello everybody, this is Oliver from Neo, and today we are going to talk about the differences in matchas, and I want to dive into culinary matcha and why culinary matcha can be so different in color. So when you buy your matcha, you can have different kinds of green, so you can go from a strong green to a really nearly a brownish color. I bought you here two extremes. So these are this is here our Matcha Sesui, so a high grade matcha which is coming from a Yabukita cultivar. And what you can see is when the color or when the quality is also of a high or high level, high quality level, ceremonial level, also set to be or sometimes classified as a high grade matcha, you can see that you have a very beautiful green color. And when it comes to culinary matcha, there you have a lot of variations. And here, for example, I have an extreme example of a culinary matcha which is of a quite low quality. So what you can see is that the color is very different to the one from the first harvest. And now I already said it, the high quality or high grade or ceremonial matcha is often coming from the first harvest. So this is really when the plant was curated during the whole winter and was able to absorb the most minerals and most nutrients from the soil. And then also just before harvesting, so around 20 to 25 days, these plants are often covered. And then actually a very beautiful deep green color produces in the leaves. Often they are a little bit darker and more intense in color. And finally the leaves, they're destemmed, deveined, so all the aspects which could brighten up the powder a little bit are actually taken out. So you have a very beautiful green color of the matcha itself. And that's how finally you get a very rich, nutrient rich and beautiful green colored matcha. Often a sign when it is dark deep green that it has a lot of sweetness, that it is very fine, it's not bitter. So this is something very much you have to look for if you're looking for a matcha which is actually of high quality and has no bitterness or very little bitterness. Then definitely go for the most intense green. But how come that the culinary matcha is so different in color? Often when you go for culinary matcha, so these are mostly matchas which are used in matcha bars, for cakes, for other types of candy, which is just a little bit of low grade, because often in these products where it is mixed together, sugar is often used. So it doesn't really matter if the tea is astringent or has a bitterness, because the sugar which is mixed then with the tea is actually calming or bringing this bitterness a lot down. And so that's why the culinary matcha doesn't have to be of as a high or exceptional quality than the first harvest. Still, my belief is it's always good when you use as much of the better quality where you can, because finally you have this nice smooth tasting matcha giving then the taste to the final product which you're consuming. But still, for the culinary, it's also enough when you have a powder like this. And how can it be that the color difference is so strong? So the main difference comes already in the fact that often the culinary matcha, especially of lower quality, is used often the second, the third, or even the fourth harvest of the year, depending of how many harvests the farmer often does. And then an additional point is that actually these harvests, they are not covered, so they're not shaded. So this intense green color, which is contributed by the shading, by the extra production of chlorophyll and the high presence of theanine as well, makes the leaf already brighter. And then often for the production of the culinary matcha, the stems are not taken away and the veins are not extracted from the leaves, so there's much less kind of intense labor put into this matcha. So it's a bigger mix of all the part, and actually it couldn't be too much considered as a matcha. So often it's called a matcha powder or even green tea powder, because all the stems, all the veins and everything is actually still in the matcha, but it can absolutely be used. And it's not kind of that it is of bad parts of the plant. It's just that it's not as curated and not as seen or looked after so much, that all the best parts of the matcha are actually in the powder, but it is just the powdered green tea of the leaves, which are harvested in the later harvests. Often the lowest quality comes from the latest harvest, and the issue a little bit is caffeine wise, there's quite a good production of the tea plant absolutely present, but what you have much less in the leaves is actually amino acids, and these are often the savory and sweeter parts. So you have a lot of or you have less taste in the matcha, finally giving this a little bit of a pale, sometimes even a little bit of a dusty taste note, while the first harvest is really rich in nutrients, has a lot of different taste aspects. You have a little bit of fruit, sometimes you have a little bit of a nutty note, a creamy note, then you have the sweetness of the umami, you have the smoothness. So a lot of different taste aspects, while this matcha here is quite flat, and so often you see when they do your matcha they have to add more matcha powder, bringing up the caffeine of the tea, but finally with less nutrients, also with less the buffering effect you have, might even get a little bit more of the effect of the jitters, which can come from which you might know from coffee or even black tea. So this is the main difference. So it's rather low in nutrients, and it's with most parts of the leaves, while here you have really a high nutritive green tea with a little bit really like curated, only the best parts of the leaves are actually in the powder, and it's very high in antioxidants, it's very high in theanine, in amino acids, and taste wise it's a complete other game than this one here. Good. This was a small introduction in why matchas can be so different and where does it come from. I hope you like this one here, and if you haven't, please subscribe, and I'd love to see you soon. And if you have any questions ever, please ask me them. I'll be happy to answer. Bye.